My name is Lorelei Rutledge, and I'm with the J. Willard Marriott Library. I'm here today with Erika Church, and we're going to talk with you about using EndNote and Zotero to keep track of your research citations. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to start with a quick PowerPoint, and then we'll move ahead to a demo. If you have questions at any point, you're welcome to interrupt us, or you can go ahead and put those in the chat. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Yay. So there are a couple different reasons that we wanted to talk with you about citation managers. One of them is, you begin this process of writing a paper and you're pulling together all this great research for your literature review. A tool like a citation manager, even though it's not something that we talk a lot about as researchers, can be really helpful in kind of helping you keep track of that material. So we're going to do a quick introduction to what citation managers can do for you. Then we'll do a quick EndNote overview and demo. Erika will take over and do a Zotero overview and demo, and we'll have a little bit of time at the end for questions. So what is a citation manager? Has anyone used EndNote or Zotero before, or another citation manager? Let's see. So I'm guessing a couple of you may have in the past. So what a citation manager does is it helps you build a personal library of all of your research resources. Sometimes citation managers are called reference software or bibliographic manager. And these tools allow you to collect, organize, cite, and share your research resources. So one of the reasons that I think that they're really good, right, is that most of us are reading stuff all the time in Twitter, on web pages, or in journals or books that we want to keep track of. But the thing is, even if you think you'll probably remember where you got materials or you paste them into a Word document or something like that, it can be kind of a time crunch at the end of a project, especially to really pull together all those resources quickly. But citation software lets you do that. So we'll show you how you can import citation information directly from databases and websites, how you can build and organize bibliographies, format and reformat citations, take notes on articles, and also save and organize research files like PDFs. So one of the things that people sometimes ask me or ask Erika is which citation manager is the best to use. They have different strengths and weaknesses, but what we always tell people is what we learned from our friend Rebecca, who also works in the library, which is the best citation manager is the one that you use. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick as long as you take a little bit of time to learn it and use it. So today I'm going to do the demo on EndNote, and I'll kind of talk you through setting up your account and going through and sharing groups, creating a bibliography, and editing citations. So I'm going to stop my share so that I can go ahead and share a web page. And you're welcome to follow along with me, or if you want to just watch, that's fine as well. Whatever works for you.
While you're pulling that up, I think this is a great time for the question that was put in the chat. You're probably going to cover this, but just in case. So Kaylee said, with access to EndNote, I've been unable to download, where did I lost it? Because my account says I'm ineligible for student purposes. So how can they download the use access to EndNote?
So I don't know why it would say that. So there's a couple options. One is to check at our security desk and just make sure that your account with the library is in good standing, and then you shouldn't have a problem. The other option is we usually encourage people to go through the library, but if you go straight to myendnoteweb.com, you should be able to just set up a free account through that. And that's what I might recommend just doing in the beginning, is setting up a free account that way. I usually tell people to go through the library homepage, And that's what I want the rest of you to do. And that's just because it's a little easier to find. But yeah, Kaylee, you try going directly to myendnoteweb.com and let me know if that works. But yeah, so to get to EndNote from the library homepage, I'm going to start at lib.utah.edu. I'm going to click on databases, which is right here under this main search box. Then I'll choose the letter E and scroll down through the alphabetized list to EndNote. So there are two versions of EndNote. There is an EndNote Online, which is also called EndNote Basic, and there is a desktop version. They function independently of each other, but you can sync them. So the reason that I like EndNote Basic and tend to show this one a lot is that it's totally web-based. You can use it on any computer that you're on, and I really like that. A lot of people like EndNote Desktop because it allows you to use over 10,000 different styles for your citations. And it's also kind of this neat package library of all your citations in one place on your computer, so you don't have to worry. I've never had a problem with EndNote Basic, but I know some researchers and dissertation writers are like, look, I don't want to risk it. I just want to use EndNote Desktop. But today we're looking at EndNote Basic. So this is what it looks like. There are kind of two major panes that you're looking at. On the left side of the screen over here, this is a list of the different groups that my references are organized into. So you'll see that if I click on one, I have citations that show up in the center pane that are organized specifically for that topic area. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do with EndNote. So the thing I think is coolest about EndNote is, let's say I'm writing a paper and I need a bibliography. I am going to go right up here to EndNote Cite While You Write, which I will show you how to get this, but this is definitely my favorite part of EndNote by far. And I need to add an in-text citation. So I'm going to click on Insert Citations and search for a citation. Okay, here's the one I want. It's by the author Sohail. And it's going to automatically pop that in there for me and create my bibliography for me. Okay, so right now this is an MLA format. I don't love that. I need it to be APA 7th, and it will update it automatically for me. So you'll see I have a pretty short list here, but you can select from multiple styles. IEEE, there's over 10,000 different styles in EndNote, but this is kind of what I think is the magic right here, right? Is you can automatically format that bibliography and those in-text citations. So that can save you a lot of time at the end. So let's talk about, how do I get my citations actually into EndNote? There are a few different ways that you can do this. So one option that you have is to go to Collect and say New Reference, and you can create a new reference by hand. So just type in all the information by hand in the window that opens and automatically format it. I almost never do this because most databases make it pretty easy to just pop things into EndNote. So let me show you what I mean. So let's say that I've searched the library catalog. I'm interested in structural racism in higher education, and I've found a book that I want to use for my bibliography. So here's my book. I'm going to click on this button that says EndNote Basic. And if your EndNote is not already open, it's going to ask you to open it. And sometimes it'll ask you to sign in a couple times. I don't know why it does that. It's going to tell me that my record was imported. I'm going to click on My References. And over here under unfiled, I have a lot of things that have hung out in my unfiled, but my book will show up there. And then I can go ahead and move it to the group that I need it in. So let's see. Our book is by Miller, so it should show up alphabetically in my list here. Let's see. Oh, that's Hiller. Well, so if I can't find the book that I imported right away, what I like to do is go back into the search here and just say, I want to search for racism in the United States. And then if it imported, I should be able to find it. There are other ways that you can do this as well, depending on the database. So for instance, here I'm in ProQuest, and this is an article that I'm interested in. I'd like to go ahead and add this to my citation manager. And so the easiest way to do that in ProQuest is to click on this EndNote button, and it will give me an option of different outputs. RIS is the one that works with EndNote. I'm going to say continue, and that's going to download a little file called something like ProQuest document.ris. Then I can go ahead and go back to my EndNote and say, I want to collect and import that reference. I'll go ahead and choose that little file. And in almost every case, unless you specify otherwise, it's going to show up in your downloads. Here we go. And I want to do an EndNote import or a RefMan RIS. In this case, I'm going to do RefMan because this is just an easy way to, it works on any kind of RIS file. And then I'm going to say, I want to make a new group and import it into that group. And I'm going to call that group OUR. And then when I click on my group, I should see my reference popped right into it. So there are some databases, right, where you have to do what we just did, where you download the little file and put it in. But in a lot of cases, you can do it automatically. So that's really nice. Here's another example. If we go into one of the EBSCOhost databases, like Academic Search Ultimate, and we see some things that we want to put in our bibliography, you can add them to a folder. Click on the folder. And then once you're in here, you can go ahead and say, oh, I'd like to export those. And I would like to do a direct export to EndNote Web. And I'm going to say save. And it's going to open my EndNote and just say, hey, we imported those records for you. So that's kind of a nice thing that you can do in here. It's pretty easy after you practice a couple times to do this. The other thing I really like is if I go back to organize and click on manage my groups, I can create a different group for each of my projects, and then I can share that group. So here are some of the groups I have. Let's say that I'm working on this project design or CSD, and I'm working on that with a group of people. I'm going to click on manage sharing. I'm going to start sharing this group, and I'm going to put their emails in. And for this, you'll want to make sure that they have an EndNote account so that they can get to this group. And I'm going to click on read and write, and then they'll be allowed to add citations as well to my group. We can work together to build a shared bibliography. I'm going to click back on my references. The other thing that's pretty neat is, let's say that I get a PDF, right, of this article and I want to just make sure it's connected to the citation, I can go ahead and click on the paperclip and attach that file so that I always have it. Let's say I want to take notes. I can double click, open one of these citations, and go down here to the bottom where there's a notes field and go ahead and pop my notes in. So it's a very convenient way to kind of keep track of what you have going on. The one downside is that because of copyright rules, if you share a group with somebody, it'll share the citations, but not the PDFs. So that's just kind of a copyright responsibility. There's also another way that you can get references. So far we've kind of been downloading them directly from databases or from the library catalog. But let's say that I go to the New York Times and I see an article in today's paper and I want to get that citation. So I want to keep track of this here. So I'm going to go up to a little tool that I have called Capture Reference. And what this is going to do is read the metadata for this item the best that it can. And it'll pop open a separate little window and it will pull as much metadata as it can and then save that reference in my EndNote. So there we see it's kind of saved as much as I can, and I can say I'm going to save it to my endnote.com. So that's another way to get information. So let me show you back on EndNote where you can get some of those tools that I was just using. So I'm going to go under Downloads, and here is where you can download Cite While You Write. That's the tool I was showing you that allows you to automatically format a bibliography and add in-text citations to a Word document. Capture Reference is a little plugin that you can add to your toolbar, and you can do that right now. EndNote Click is kind of a new tool that tries to pull full text PDFs for you automatically through the library. You can try that if you'd like to. So those are some of the tools that are available via EndNote. Tell me what questions you have. Any questions? Last call? Okay.
We've got a question in the chat.
Oh, cool.
Does using EndNote always require a university affiliation?
No, especially so right now, my EndNote Web will let you get a free account without an affiliation. The other thing is if you pay for the desktop version, which you can get for, I think, for free, I'm pretty sure, through the library, or not through the library, sorry, through the campus hub for software. Once that's downloaded, that's yours. So there's nothing required that way.
So I have a quick question, because I've been looking into this from some of the questions in the chat. And Lorelei, I'm not sure if you know the answer. We may need to take a look at our own reference support. So because I'm not an EndNote user, I use a different software, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I do have an EndNote account. I went back in, and because I haven't used it, so I don't know if we've got other people coming in who have used EndNote or EndNote Basic while affiliated with other institutions. I'm not able to update it, and I've gone through the proxy portal, and it's through the website, and it's not letting me update. So I only have limited access to my library.
It won't let you update it?
It won't. So I'm not sure if that's a limitation because I'm not an admin on the computer that I primarily use, or if that's a limitation that we need to address. Maybe there needs to be a deinstall for those folks, or something. I did try and run the update just to see if that might have been the issue, because I know previously you could add an institutional relationship in your account, and that was what linked it to the expanded user. Mine also says that my use time has expired. So I'm not sure if that's the issue some other folks brought up that they're having, but perhaps we can always reach out to some other of our team members, both tech folks and other librarians, and try and get an answer for everybody here who's running into that issue.
Yes, there are a couple things I can think of right away to try. The first is if you are on a managed machine, it probably will not let you run an update. It won't let me run an update on my managed machine. The second is if you have one of the like demo versions, like a demo version of EndNote desktop, it will make you uninstall it. So what you can do is export your library, uninstall it, and then reinstall our full version with the passkey to do that. And I can help you do that, or like Erika was saying, someone at our second floor Knowledge Commons desk could also help you do that. The second option I'm thinking, Erika, specifically for your problem, is maybe to go directly to myendnoteweb.com and see if you can log in and update there.
Login I could do, update I couldn't.
From
So
myendnoteweb.
Yeah, so I'll take your advice on step one and try that for mine.
Yes, that is a thorny problem, and I am sorry to hear that it's doing that, but those are my initial thoughts. The other thing I will say is that EndNote has a pretty robust kind of knowledge center, so that's definitely another thing we could do is call them directly. But yeah, that's kind of my initial thought.
Hopefully that helps the folks that I was following in chat. And if there's more that comes up, reach out to Lorelei, or drop some more questions in chat, and hopefully we can get that worked out for you.
Yeah, I didn't realize that if you had it at one university, it would give you a hard time here, but I'm sure that that's something that we can work out. I will look into it. Shiver, if I email you that information, can you get it out to everybody? Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna pass the torch to Erika. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Thank you for being my clicker and driving the PowerPoint presentation for me.
I know, right? It's a hard job, but somebody has to do it.
All right, but wait, there's more. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Zotero. Again, just like Lorelei said, the only bad citation manager is one you don't use. Being able to share, manage, and work with this, almost all of them allow you to export the content in some way that you could then import into another citation management tool. I really like Zotero because it is free and open source, so you can take this with you wherever you're going. You can work in a lot of open platforms. There's still also challenges, but some of them are not the same as the license specific or institution specific issues. I tend to work primarily in Chrome, so that's what I'm going to demo today, but it does work with anything except for Internet Explorer. Hopefully not a whole lot of folks here are still surfing on the IE. But we're going to work from Zotero.org. That's where we download the software. We do the setup for our account. It's a free account. And then you can manage your library from the web portal, and you can also apply a plugin. So again, if you have admin access to a primary machine, that's where you put the plugin. That's where you can do all of your cite and write. Although all of the web components are really pretty well faceted, and we'll get into that in the demo. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and I'll show you what you would do to set up an account, how you can put the plugins in, and then we'll do a little bit of how you can cite while you write and create in-text citations, edit citations. I really like it. It's a one-click process. So, and it really does identify a lot of things. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to screen share. And again, you can always follow along if you'd like, but also just take a look, get comfortable. Really, this more than anything, because there are so many things between in the spectrum between something that's fully open source and not institutionally based versus something that's really more structured. I do know that EndNote has a lot of upsides, but the learning curve, I would say, between EndNote and Zotero is a little bit different. I think Zotero is a little easier to pick up. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And are we seeing the Zotero.org website? Awesome. So again, cool, open source. There is a cost tier involved, but it's storage related. So just a lot of really cool things. You can go to the login or the create the account. I gotta minimize my friends here. Or you can go directly to the download if you haven't set anything up yet. I'm gonna log in just to get started. And you can chain it to the OpenID. This works really well with the Google Suite if you're sharing or doing group collaboration, which is nice. So you can right away see I've got a pretty chunky library. We'll go back to the Zotero page really quick. So you can see what the other stuff looks like. So now it's seeing me. We've got all of our little immediate links right here. The upgrade storage is the one cost related thing, but I have a fair amount of stuff in my library with linked PDFs, which is the other highlight of pretty much all citation softwares. They allow you to actually keep files with your content, which for me is a lifesaver when I find a citation and I'm like, what did I do with that? Where is that article? It's really handy. I haven't hit the storage upgrade yet, but that is the one place where this might bring some cost to the process. If we look at the downloads, they call it the connector. It appears up here. It's just a nice little plugin. And it's truly like a one click to put it into my library, which is great. And then they do have this for multiple platforms. So for Mac and Linux as well as Windows. This is one though where you will need to have administrative access on your primary machine. And I will demo what it looks like to switch between the web-based library. The libraries do sync, which is awesome. It's one of my other favorite things. And that way I could pop into a browser on my phone. I could sit down at any random computer and do some research, and I can add that using my plugin, and then that'll show up in my other library once I sync it up for managing things. So the other thing that's cool about this is the shareable aspect. You can do that in EndNote as well. But like I said, this just works really well with a lot of the open source suites. So you can create groups, share groups, manage the library content. So you notice that my library is pretty full, but I can share specific collections. So that's a nice way to put citations out to different people. And then the forums here are great. This is another space where, because it's open source, it's a really active community of people who are doing troubleshooting, who are answering questions, who are engaging their users themselves. So there's a lot of good answers out there. And this is a pretty well supported open source tool. So we're gonna hop to my library, which again, web library, you can go right from the top here, or even if you're on the first Zotero page, web library is the first link. So Unfortunately, this is the one place where I'm a little jealous of EndNote, is they do have an unsorted option. My library is everything, 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 everything. So I do go through occasionally and do a little bit of cleanup. There are options to go through and look at duplicates. So if I've added something more than once, it can help me weed that out. But in general, if I'm finished with a project, I might export all the citations as a text file or something else to clear out my library, because my library is going to keep everything that I collect. But once I drop it into one of my project folders, and you can create multiple subfolders and organize, then it does narrow things down. The search field is really pretty functional. So it also, you know, jumping back in here, there's so much, but the search field is pretty functional in being able to narrow that down or identify things. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few citations. I've installed my plugin. I've got my library open. We're going to go to the Marriott library. And I've been doing a lot of research and looking into redlining, especially related to housing. So that's what I'm going to take a look at. And I've been looking at Detroit. So we're going to add that. And you'll notice if you watch the icon here in my plugins, that depending on what the resources that I'm looking at, it's going to adapt. So it'll actually say what it's looking at capturing, which I think is pretty fun. Kind of look through here. See if I can find something that is online. Oh, this one includes libraries. That's pretty interesting. Full text is available. So let's take a look at this one. So now you'll see if I hover over this, it's going to tell me what it is, what we're saving. And I mean, you can obviously download the citation here, which is nice, but this is a nice way. Like, there are ways to pull the citations as well, but this is seriously one click. So we're just going to click on this. It's saving to zotero.org. And it's telling me what's happening. It's actually taking a snapshot of the page. And because there's a full text PDF right there, it's attaching that PDF to my library immediately, which is pretty darn cool. So we go back to my library. There's a lot happening in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, oop, I keep spelling redlining wrong. We all know it's been a long day. So it's right here, attached is the PDF, and I can drag and drop that into my redlining folder. And I'm going to put it in my subfolder. Oh, I'm not going to put it in my subfolder because it's not about Detroit, but it is about redlining. It's going to stay here. It's going to show up in my library until I do any sort of cleanup. But now if I go into the redlining folder, we're going to be able to find that. And you'll see right here, all of the information it was able to pull just from that, including the abstract, because we have the PDF attached to it. I can go in and add notes. I can add tags. You know, it shows me my PDF right there. You can put together related content. That's especially helpful if you're sharing or working with a group. So is the notes field, as well as exporting like an annotated bibliography. So if I want to pull a citation, we've got our little item here. This is for in-text citations. So in IEEE, it is literally just a number. I don't use IEEE, but I teach a lot of engineers, so that's why I pointed that out. But there are a bunch of other styles. The primary ones that drop down are going to be APA, Chicago, and MLA. If we go into this list, you can bring in a ton of different styles. IEEE has for every different journal, like all of these different options. So things can get very specific. It really covers a huge number of citation styles. Is there anything folks are citing in that I'm not thinking of that we want to take a look at, see what's available? You can throw that into chat. But I'll go ahead and pick animals. Let's see.
We do have one in the chat when you're ready to switch it up.
Yeah, is it a citation style or another question?
It is a citation style question mark. AAS text.
Yes. All one word?
Yes. I don't know.
Okay. I'm excited also when we get to Q&A, if no one asks any Qs, I'm gonna quiz everybody there. I need to know what AAS tech stands for, whether that is an incredibly small journal-based one, similar to the origins of IEEE, or if it's something that I need to shake my finger at Zotero and say, we need to get this citation style to be available, or if I'm just spelling it wrong.
So I think what could be going on with this is Lorelei, is so AAS text, I think, is its own package that the AAS journals use for manuscript preparation. So if you're interested in something like AAS text or, bib text, those work a little bit differently because they use markup to do the citations. So that's, I think, not something that we can do in either EndNote or Zotero. What we could do is look and see if any of the journals that use AAS text, like we could look at their citation styles, and if they have a specific citation style for just that journal, we could find it in EndNote or Zotero and probably use that. But the tool itself, I don't think it's functional with either of these.
Nice, thank you for that answer, Lorelei. That's really helpful. Just to show you how to add something, I'm going to go ahead and let's do the marine and coastal fisheries one. So over here, you'll see the options to add. You can add multiples. So I can go in and be like, all these are all citation styles I want showing up in my dropdown. You then close out of this and we'll go back to creating a citation, and you'll see that they all appear in my menu now. And we'll go with this, and you're just seeing the difference there. You can do that individually or with multiple citations. So you can just do a little shift click, and that works for both the citations and it works for our bibliography. And again, we can move around and change that really easily. It then at the bottom lets you just copy it to your clipboard. So let's go ahead. And I'm going to move to citing in a document. I will say that if you are using your primary computer, I don't recommend running Zotero Web and Zotero Desktop at the same time. They don't play well together because they're meant to complement each other. So if you ever run into an issue where you're not getting the proper citations or it's not talking to your Word document or your Google Doc, it has everything to do with it trying to figure things out for both. So I'm going to close out of this and let's share my stylish Word doc. So if you do have administrative access, installing the plugin is very simple. It's really truly a point and click, but it's another thing where our Knowledge Commons folks can help you with that, or Lorelei, or Rebecca, who's our Zotero specialist, could help you go through installing that over like a Zoom consult or in person. You can see it automatically now appears up here in my menu. So click on Zotero, so I can edit a citation, add a note, edit a bibliography. I'm going to click on that. And we're going to forget that we didn't open the desktop version of Zotero first. And now we have, there we go. Once you've installed it, it is just a like an automatic click. I keep mine pinned to my taskbar. You'll see up here, there's a little arrow, and it's automatically syncing with my website. That's really the main thing that will be conflicting if you have both open at the same time. Structure is really similar. You have a little bit more functionality in terms of organizing and structuring things. But if you do work on either end, so if I create new folders or new shared groups, all of that will translate between my desktop version and my web version.
Question from the chat.
Yes.
Is Zotero compatible with Google Docs as well?
It is, yes. And we can even, let me drop a little citation in here and we'll go back to Google Docs. So you can see here, I've got access. I've added a bunch of other ones. Again, you can go to manage styles and add from that same entire list that we saw. Some of this also connects to some other components. We'll go ahead and we'll just do APA this time. I prefer the classic view over the sources sorted because I never remember the titles of all the things that I'm looking for. That's mainly because this is a demo and not something I'm immediately working on writing. For a lot of you, I know that your heads are going to be locked into the article or the author. So the search box would be really helpful. This just allows me to actually look through my libraries. It also allows me to move through my different folders and subfolders. And you'll see there that in APA style, it dropped in my in-text citation. If I wanted to go in and then do an add edit for bibliography, got that same content there. So let's see. Open up a Google Doc for you. And you'll see that again, Zotero appears right here in my my plugins. So I can go ahead and it'll give me information about formatting and allow me to I may have to switch back to the web version of Zotero for this to work. So we'll close out of this library.
This is one of the things that I think is a little bit better about Zotero, although I am reluctant to admit it. There is a way to use EndNote in Google Docs, but Zotero is better. Want want.
Where's my little option? I don't know if I'm just not seeing the drop down option. It really does work, and I apologize that I'm not getting it to respond. Maybe it does not like what I have typed. Let's see. Do I need to pair you in some way?
Well, so one thing is it says the Zotero desktop app must be running before you open Word or Google Docs for the Zotero tabs to work properly.
Oh, here I thought I needed to go back to my web library. Tomfoolery. You can tell that I have definitely been reliant on my Outlook and my Word for a lot of my writing, but it does work. So we'll jump out of this document. Make sure that my Zotero library is open. Here we are, back on the desktop library.
This is a really good reminder, though. This is like a funny reminder, but my friend Mary, who also uses EndNote a lot, always tells people E before W. So if you're working in something like Word, you want to open your EndNote first and then your Word document. And it's the same with Zotero. You want your Zotero to be running and then open your Word doc. It's not the end of the world if you don't do that, but it functions better that way you do, or if you do. And the other hint is if you're working with a team and you're using track changes, you want to turn off your track changes before you start popping citations in, because otherwise it just kind of messes up the formatting. So what we recommend instead, right, is turn it off, pop that stuff in, and then just highlight it or find another way to let your team know.
All right, I don't know if I have blocked a pop-up window. I don't know if I have something open that shouldn't be. But I have done this before. I can replicate this solution. I will say we're reaching our hour, so I don't want to spend the rest of the time doing this. I know Lorelei and I both have some follow-ups. Mine, I'd be happy to follow up on making sure I can prove that this does work. It does show up. It is here. The installation process is simple. The guide Rebecca created, who is by far our Zotero expert, that's what she uses for her research and publications. You can reach out to me, absolutely. You can also reach her. We've included that in our final slide. I'm going to stop screen sharing so Lorelei can put that slide up and we can hit questions really quickly for everybody. But I will happily share my amended success. There we go. Yeah, Rebecca Cummings is our primary Zotero expert, so definitely another person to reach out to. But I will always happily help with research questions or citation management questions.
I also put the link to our research guides in, but I just want to show you super quick how to get to those. So if you go to the library homepage at lib.utah.edu and click on research guides and type in either EndNote or Zotero. My guide is called EndNote Basic and Rebecca's is called Zotero. And this has kind of all of the information that we covered today in this kind of overview format. So if you have questions about how to add citations from specific databases, or if we talked about things that you want to go over again, that's the way to find more information. Other questions for us?
While people are thinking and maybe typing in the chat, do you find that it is necessary to go back and clean up some of those citations? Like, do they sometimes get the italics wrong or something in APA?
Yes. So in a lot of our databases and like the library catalog, not necessarily, but in Google Scholar, which is one I actually use a lot, sometimes you do need to go back in and edit that reference and just make sure that it's totally correct. That's a great point, Shiver. And the reason for that is like, you are getting whatever metadata was appended to that document when it was uploaded. And sometimes, right, people will put the title in all caps, or they won't include page numbers, or there's been, you know, a machine that harvests that information and they don't catch the issue number. So that's something that, even though these do save a lot of time, you should check it and edit it carefully. Which is pretty easy to do, right? In either Zotero or EndNote, if you double click on a citation, it'll open all the information and you can just change those fields in there. Shiver, are you still using Zotero?
Are you publicly shaming me? No, I am not still using Zotero, but primarily because I haven't been writing big papers recently.
I thought it was because you switched from, so Shiver switched from EndNote to Zotero. They betrayed me.
I'm so sorry. I have to say, I prefer Zotero, and it was working well for me, and I will use it again.
Nice. But yeah, feel free.
It's an open source thing. I am not a shill. I like its portability. Even if I was not able to fully achieve demo for Google Docs.
One thing I would say is don't download both EndNote and Zotero on the same machine, because they have automatic download functions, right? Like many databases will try to automatically download into EndNote or Zotero, and if they're fighting over which one, that's not probably going to make you very happy. That'll probably bring tears to your eyes completing projects. So I would pick one or the other. Or if you want to test them on a library computer and then see which one is a better fit for you, that's another way to go.
Would you say, Lorelei, that they could run the basics, so the web versions, without doing a hard install? Or do you think those would also conflict?
I think you could run the web versions if you don't put both of the cite while you write on your Word. I think if you put the EndNote cite while you write and the Zotero cite while you write, that will be confusing. But yeah, you could probably test the web versions. I would not run EndNote desktop with either of the Zoteros because they fight. And if any of you are interested in seeing what the desktop version looks like, you're welcome to get in touch with me and I'll show it to you.
And that's the one they can download from the hub. The university provides access to that full software.
Yep.
Okay, well, there are no questions in the chat, so I'm gonna close us out with another slide. And just a reminder, well, one, I would like to say thank you to everyone involved in this event, Lorelei and Erika. This was wonderful. It's always helpful as a refresher for me, as an intro to some of the students. This was wonderful. So thank you very much for your time and your expertise. Thank you to the students attending and watching the video later. We appreciate you being here and learning how to use citation management for your own time and organization as you move through your research. And then as a reminder, If you have logged in real time, you are currently watching me say these words, your login to Zoom, that sentence didn't make sense because if you're watching the video, that would still be true. If you logged into the Zoom call in real time, your login counts for your attendance. If you were watching the video later, please go to the top of the education series page and fill out that evaluation form with your unit so that we can check off that you have in fact attended this event. And I asked Megan, who runs Spur and is involved in all the summer research programs, what her suggestion for the affiliate status limitations, and kind of some of y'all were having some hangups with those. And she encourages you to check with your program coordinator, if that's her, if you're in Spur, if it's, if you're in other various programs, whoever that coordinator is, make sure you let them know that your affiliate status isn't giving you access to stuff that you need access to so they can get that solved for you. And with that, I am going to stop the recording.